thanks for inviting me. I hope this is informative. All I'm going to do is just run through. What's this? Got it. Lead me to got it. Yeah. All I need to do is I'm just going to run through some of the lost dry flies that I use for wild brown trout. Okay. Yeah. I'll start off with no, I think I did this the last time. I did a hedgehog, but there's so many different colour variations you can do with hedgehogs. I think I'll just run through it again. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So this one here is one of my all-time favourites, and I call it a Wickham's hedgehog or a Wickham's hog. Okay, I'm not getting into the debate about hedgehogs and sedgehogs. We'll keep that for another day. Yeah, yeah. In fact, yes, I will. So hedgehogs are the original. Stand to them. Hedgehogs have little legs in them. Don't tend to have a head hackle. Stan Headley made them a bit smaller. Took the legs off them and put a head hackle on, and as a sedge imitation, and called it a sedgehog. So essentially, it's a variation of a hedgehog, but they're the same thing. Yeah, okay. So what I like to do with these, with the Wickham's one, is I like to put a chartreuse or a coloured fluorescent coloured tag. In this case here, it's chartreuse. Pink can be really good, as can red, and it's really just to give it that little hot spot on the fly that can't find so irresistible. Yeah. So all I've done here is I've just put this is Ato fluorescent chartreuse thread, and I've just made a tag with that, just at the bend of the hook, and I'm just going to nip that thread out the way, and as you can see, if I hit it with the light, you're just going to get a little hot spot. Okay. Next up, now I use microglint a lot. As a tying thread, it's really good. This particular one, because it's a Wickham's, I'm using antique gold. If you're using microglint, just a couple of things to be aware of. One, it's going to be the equivalent of 6/0, so it's quite a thick thread. Yeah. But so if you're going smaller, this particular hook's okay. It's a size 10 L5A partridge. So the size for this is okay. But if you're going small, 14 you get away with, 16s then you tend to start to get bulked up too quickly. Yeah. So that's what I use. Another thing to remember, you've got some good stretch in it, good bit of stretch in it there, but it's an embroidery thread. Remember, it will break. Yeah. So you've just got to learn the tension and your thread control as you're doing this. So what we'll do is we just catch the thread in the back of the eye, run a few locking turns, let the tag end out the way, and then we'll run the thread down and over. Now the little finish section that I had on the end of the tag, I'm just going to take the thread over the top of that there, and then that's me. I've set the size of better coming for the back up. I've set the size of the little hotspot, and that's my thread sitting there ready to go for the first stage of the fly, of the wing. So for this particular fly, deer hair rules supreme, and the best of the deer hair you can get for this is roe hair off the back of the beast. Yeah, you can use white-tailed buck or short fine deer hair as it's sold as, or you can use elk, all the rest of it. But roe deer hair, I feel, is by far the easiest and gives you by far the best finish for this particular type of fly. So we're just going to cut a bunch off the patch. Now you soon learn how much to and how little to take off as you're cutting the bunch off. But if you said I've cut off, say about, what would that be? Just over, not quite half an inch. In fact, nowhere near half an inch. Probably about a quarter of an inch of a section, or 5 or 6 millimeters for younger viewers. Okay. What I like to, now you don't have to stack it. I stack it. By stacking it, you compress the bunch of the hair. It makes it more even. It makes it easier to tie in. Yeah. But if it's a scruffy fly, guys, that's purely down to your own personal choice. Okay. So sorry about the tapping. You better get used to it because I've been doing a lot of that. So here we go. We've stacked our bunch of deer here, and that's it set ready to tie in. As you see, it's evened up the tips. And by stacking it, as I said, we've compressed. We're only using the tip ends. You don't have to worry about cutting off any of the underfur or any of the base stuff at the back because you're going to be trimming that off anyway. And we're just going to set the length so it's just coming past the bend of the hook. Okay. Now I've set the length, what I'll do is I grip it with my other hand and then bring my thread over. Now, really grip that hook when you're doing this because you don't want this to be dragged round. This is not a muddler head you're putting on here. You're putting in a wing that's sitting on top of the fly. So what I do is I put in 2 or 3 locking turns. So I just turn it and then just give a wee slight draw with the thread because that helps tighten the thread up without going too tight and then breaking it. So I've locked that in place, and then what I'll do is I just slip my fingers away and it leaves you a nice clean bunch. Any broken fibres would come away on your fingers. Okay. Now, the next thing is, some guys will say, well, I could have actually cut these tag ends off to start with. I don't do that because I feel that when you compress the deer here, if you've trimmed these ends off, or if you're using short fine deer here, the lengths are too short, yeah? So you don't get the same grip. It doesn't bind the same and it doesn't flare the same, I feel, yeah? So I never cut the tags off. First, what I'll do is I'll draw them together like so, lift them up, come in with my scissors, tight to the body of the fly, and then just trim them out the way and leave that nice clean cut. Almost a 45 the way it sits getting down again. Compress, support your deer hair bunch, run the thread down, back up, and then down again, just to that step, as you can see, the little step right there, yeah? And then do the same again. With a good hedgehog, you're probably looking at about a bunch of, maybe say, 4 probably, bunches. That first one was, as I said, about 5mm. I better tighten this up. Is that still in focus? Aye. This one, I do want to make it just slightly, just a little bit more, yeah? The reason being that when you tie the tail in first, you don't want this big clump at the back, so you just tie a slightly smaller bunch at the back. That's just purely aesthetic. As it comes to fishing, then, to be honest with you, you're fishing it that hard in the water, it doesn't make a difference. It's purely for appearance. Compress. Turn it round. A wee bit of clumsy here because I'm tying over the top of my camera, but we'll get there. And then what we'll do is we're going to set the wing at just about 45 degrees shorter than the tips. Okay? Once we've set that in place, same again, exactly the same. Twist it slightly towards yourself, lock it in place, turn and draw, and you'll see the tag ends there flaring up, yeah? Draw your fingers away, clean bunch, come in, lift, tight to the body with your scissors, nip them out the way. Well, you can do a single big cut if you want, but I prefer I can see where I'm going, just controlling the length as I'm cutting it if you just snip it away. Any bucksheath fibres, just cut them at the road, pull them at the road, break them off. And then again, as I said, just take your thread down, lock all those tag ends in place, come back up and then come down again, and that neatens up your body. Okay. Now I'm going to nip through this next step because it's just exactly the same, just repeating the same again. A bunch of deer here, into the stacker, tap away. Set, 45, lock in place, twist and draw. Now if your thread does break, because invariably it will, if you're tying loads of these things, what you probably get away when you let it go, it'll be tight enough there that it won't unravel right away. You've got time to come back in and catch that tag end again with your thread and bind it back in again. So hopefully it doesn't happen tonight because it looks looks as though I didn't know what I'm doing, but I've broken the thread plenty of times, so that's what to do. Don't worry about the whole thing unraveling. In the worst case scenario there, actually, guys, you would just take that bunch out and then reset it and do it again, yeah? Okay. Here we go, just nipping that out the way, and that's us cleaned off the tag ends, ready to tie in. So that's 3 bunches I've got in there. It's a size 10, so I've got away with 4. Just drawing this up to make sure I've not got any thread drag. At the head hackle, there's a lot of bulk comes off the tag ends of the deer hair, so I tend to tie in the same as at the tail, a slightly smaller bunch at the head, and then that way just gives me a bit more room to finish it. But to be fair, I could finish that now, but it'd end up with a great big head on the fly. But doing it this way, I feel just get a better balance to the pattern. Now, if you want to be really good or be creative, you can go a different colour if you like. Just depends on how fancy you want to be. Again, so we're coming in, see, just that 45 again. Catch it. Twist the whole wing section towards yourself, just slightly, just to help counteract against thread drag. Throttle back, come in with your scissors, and then just snip that right out of the way. The other thing to watch out for is, cut the thread. Happens quite a bit if you're not paying attention. And then we'll just lock that in place like so. Okay, there's a broken bit of the deer hair stem sticking back there. I've just pulled it out of the way. As you can see, that's again just purely for aesthetic. So we've got the fly. There's all our wings in place coming forward. So that was essentially 4, wasn't it? Bunches. So you know that's fairly indestructible, actually, especially when I've put a little drop of varnish along the bottom of this. You'll see, I'll show you that in a minute. But very, very bushy. If you gink this really, really hard, it's almost unsinkable. The way the guys up in Orkney would have first picked this fly up, fish it. You can fish it short line. I fish it started dry quite a lot. I fish 2 in the cast and fish started dry, or just let it swing in the wind, or slow figure 8, or short line and dibble it across the top, or pull it. When you're pulling it, a lot of the guys will cut down the length. So if I'm 2 flies, which is my predominant dry fly approach in lochs, I put the full width of my arms apart. So I'm almost 6 feet. So that's about just short of 6 feet between each of the flies. The guys, when they're fishing them, pulling them in Orkney, they'll fish 4 flies in the cast, and they'll have them 1.5 foot apart, all heavily ginked up on an intermediate or a sink tip line best. And what happens then is when you cast in, the flies will sit on the top and they settle. They're obviously floating. As your line's drawn down, you pull and pause, the flies go under and then pop back through again. Yeah. So it's the pop method, if you want to call it that. Because there's 4 flies in there, all really big and bushy and heavily ginked up, that each one supports the other one, because they're close together, and you just get this burst of activity in the surface of the water, if you like, that the trout can find so very irresistible. So that's just one way of fishing it, remember. You don't have to, as I said, you don't have to fish it that way. Okay, so back to the dressing. Next step, as this is an original, I'm going to put some legs in. Pre-knotted pheasant tail legs. Not that one's there, rubbish. Pre-knotted pheasant tails. It's some black ones, that's better. I discarded that last one because I just looked at them there and the knots were a bit too far back for the tip, so not very good. Anybody wants some, I'll give you them when they're at the fly, Irish fly fair. Okay, so here we go, pre-knotted. These ones are black dye. That, to be fair, that doesn't really matter. And again, a couple of ways you could tie these in. You tie them in, split them and tie them in along the sides, yeah. Or you can just simply tie them in along the top, like so. As you're fishing them, to be fair, they'll move about and splay about anyway, so it's just down to your own personal choice. Couple of looking turns there, yeah. Nip that out the way, tag ends. And then we'll just form the head. Like so, yeah. And then if you want, that's you finishing the fly off. If you want, you could just put your bit of finish in. Turn it off and varnish it. However, I don't know if any of you guys have heard of the Midas in relation to bobflies or hedgehogs or hoppers, etc. So the Midas, again, hails from Orkney, and all it actually means is that you're taking a piece of gold, pure gold, sparkle flash, ice dubbin, whatever you've got, hens. You take a section of that, you dub it on, and it gives you a gold head, the Midas head, and that's what that refers to. Okay. So as you can see, I've just dubbed that, jumps onto thread, lovely. It's just another way to finish the fly off. So just dub that on, and then I'll just put in a locking hook, just a couple of turns in front. Again, remember, this is equivalent to 6/0 thread, so be aware that you're going to fill up the hook very quickly with this thread. So what I like to do, because there's a lot of soft material there, I will then drop in a little drop varnish on the thread, lay that on, like so, and then I'll just put another lock and turn in there. This fly takes a lot of punishment, so belt and braces is always best, okay? As you can see, that's me got that all tied in. Just compress the head, just to make sure that this springy, soft thread, if you like, is set properly. And then I'll just come in with my scissors, run them across, come in with my little bit of Velcro, and then I lift the dubbing at the head up into the wing. That's the same technique. If I've used dubbing in the body instead of the tinsel thread that I was showing you here, then I would brush it up into the wing in the body, just on that motion. Okay. And then my final job here with this one is take my varnish. It's Venier brush coat I use pretty much all the time now, so it's really fine, really runny as well right now. Almost to take loads off the brush, almost a clean brush if you like. And then we'll take the varnish in, and then just where you can see the threads exposed underside, just drop that little bit in there. That's all you need. That'll draw into the thread and help protect it. Because as I said, this fly will take a lot of punishment. I only do that if I'm using microblunt. I wouldn't do that if I was using dubbing or wax thread or anything for the body, just because that particular thread is so soft. And as you can see, there you go. There's your little tag flashing there. So getting the entire fly, or floating gel is probably the better way of saying it. Other brands are available. And I fish that right up on the top. Actually, guys, if I'm fishing at subsurface, because you can do that as well, and sunk lines and stuff, I still put floatant on it. Maybe it doesn't make the slightest bit of difference, but I always feel that under the surface there, that fly's still going to try and rise a bit, yeah. And that's it. There's my Wickham's Hedge Hog. Okay, just like that. Any questions? Everybody all right with that? Everybody okay?
Yeah,
Silence.
everybody's on mute, Alan. So if anybody's got a question,
that's okay. That's all I did. I had a wee panic there because I thought that when nobody spoke, I thought, oh God, is this thing going off? Yeah. So, all right. You see that? Perfect. So that's a Wickham's Hedgehog. What I'll do, I'm just going to run through various different patterns if you guys are okay with that. So what I'm going to do now, if you're tying any hedgehogs, guys, let's say that principle and those steps there, irrespective of the size, I'll usually, as I said, go down to about 14. Irrespective of the size of the flies, that is the technique. That's the tying style you would use from an 8 to a 14. So the next thing is sticking an Orkney thread. What I'm going to do now is tie up a Peach Muddler, okay, or my version of Peach Muddler. So Peach Muddler is just gives you essentially a peach style fly that's really, really flashy, because it's predominantly glow bright floss that you're using, and a lot of Daphnia in these eutrophic waters, so like Sahara Loch, these low-lying greenish style waters, a lot of Daphnia in there, and the Peach Muddler was just devised as something that helps lock on if you're fishing subsurface, helps the Daphnia feeding fish lock onto your offerings. Yeah, same as you use orange blobs, etc. as well. Yeah. So I'm just going to come in, start here. I've got black 8/0 wax thread for my tying thread. Just lay down a few locking turns there. And then I'm going to come in with the tail, which in this case, here's one I have prepared earlier, is Glow Bright number 8. Now, I love Glow Bright floss. If a wild trout angler for fishing lochs, most of my flies have got some degree of fluorescence in them. If they're tails, most of the time it's Glow Bright. If I'm putting tags on, guys, I tend to use a thread, just because it doesn't get frayed. It's not soft, so it doesn't fray up the same. Yeah. So here we go. All I've done there is I've just folded it a few times just to get myself a decent tail. I took about a 5-inch length and I folded it, doubled it over, say that's 4 times now actually. Okay. Catch that there on top of the hook. Just drop it back a little bit so you've got your waist ends to a minimum. And then I just touch and turns, run down till my thread's in line with just past the point of the hook, okay? Draw your fingers back without coming off the end there. Single cut, and that should set a nice even tail, okay? Now for this particular one, I like to use a gold wire for my rib. So this is 8/0, so it's not 8/0, it's not what I'm talking about. This is 0.2 millimeters gold wire, medium gold wire. Extra fine's good. Just sometimes you find that the flies that you're going to be pulling really hard, then if the rib's going to break easily, then it spells the fly. Yeah. So I'll just take my thread up and back down again, and that's me got my rib set. Okay. Now this is using a dubbing called Orkney Peach. Yeah. Let's see if I can let you see this. So Orkney Peach. Orkney Peach is essentially glow bright floss 7 and 8. You see it there? So, you know, a big chunk off each of the spools and put through a coffee blender. What that gives you is this lovely soft orange colour that, as you see there, it's just explodes with light when you hit it with the UV. So just take a pinch of the dubbing off, pull my thread back, dub it onto the thread. As you see, it just jumps right onto the thread. Just make sure, because it's a soft, fluffy material, just make sure I dub it really, really tight. So the rope is, as you can see that better now. It's a nice tight rope. Shorten my thread, and then just in touch and turns, come forward. If you've got a little bit of the tying thread base showing through, don't worry, because you just draw your fingers back over it or go over it with your Velcro. That just roughens that up and gives you that nice fluffy body. So the next step for this fly is I'm putting a hackle. I use soft, very light olive. It's you can use olive, yellow. Sunburst is good if you have a hackle like that there. But as you can see here, this is just a lightish olive, not quite light olive, but certainly lighter than a medium olive. And it's just in a saddle. And I'm just going to prepare that. Catch this, and just here I've stopped now. There's a muddler head in this, hence the reason why I've stopped so far back. Probably about a third of the way back on the hook. Okay, as you can see there. So I've caught that in, clean off my stem. Just make sure I've caught that properly. I like to press the stem so that the hackle's sitting square when you start to wind it on. Yeah. But in a couple of turns, it'll be at the back of the muddler head. And then I will come back and open turns and palmer this fly. Palmer the body all the way back, probably about 4, 5 turns. Okay. Bring my wire across, opposite direction. Catch the hackle in place, forget about the tag end now. And then just with even turns, making sure you don't catch the hackle tips as you come forward. I'm just going to rib this fly and then catch the wire in. Just a couple of turns. And I just hold the thread like that and break it out of the way just to give myself a bit of support. Come in with my scissors, just open ends, the V, push back up across the stem, and that's me cleaned out the way, and then I'll draw all of this back. Ready for the next step. Yeah. Now again, muddler, you can just come in with a muddler head onto this fly, just to give it that little bit extra. Another trigger point, if you like. I like to put in legs onto these flies. Probably got some sort of affliction all the years I've been going to Orkney, tying these legs into flies all the time. But I've noticed quite a lot of flies now in the loch scene are coming in with knotted legs on. It's actually another trigger point. Looks really cool as well, by the way. So this one I like. And because I'm going to keep in with the colours, this is going to be a fiery brown head. You can see there that's an orangey brownish dyed pheasant tail that I'm using here for the legs. Okay. So I've just locked that in place. Cleaned out the way. And then printed it. Deer hair for the head. This one is a fiery brown, orangey brown colour. A good friend of mine called Ed Ford. Ed's in here, isn't he? Maybe not tonight, but he comes in here. Ed dyed me some deer hair patches that really, really good. Yeah. So if anybody wants deer hair patches dyed, then Ed's your man. You'll probably hate me for saying that because I don't think he likes doing it very much. But never mind, Edward. Just got on with it. So here we go. We've got our good bunch of deer hair. Pop into the stacker. Again, that's a purely personal choice. All the tips are lined up now. Any stray fibres, I'll just pull them out the way. Okay. And then it's just bog standard routine for my muddler head technique. Just put your thread round a couple of times, and then as you twist it, make sure when you're catching it, just let it spin. Exact opposite of what you want to do when you're tying in a hedgehog wing. Yeah. Now we've got it spun in. All the tag ends facing forward. What I do is I just bring them all forward and do this, what they call the one cut method. Okay, in which case, draw them all forward, set my the scissors to roughly about the length I want the deer hair head to be. So say in this case here, just about 1/4 inch off the front of the hook there. Single cut pull them back, come in underneath that there with my thread. I just check that I've got an even spin in the deer here before I finish this fly off. Yep, that's not too bad. And then that's it. I just form my head. Quick finish. Now, obviously, you want a bigger deer head or muddler head, then you compress that back and put in your next bunch and spin that as well. For little trout flies like this, you don't have to do that. The single bunch is more than enough. So lock that in place. It's underneath the deer here, so I don't want to come in later on with my dubbing needle. So that same technique I showed you earlier, just taking the thread, dropping a little varnish onto the thread. Tying that over the hook finish you've done. So you're varnishing the hook finish you've already done, and then a final one just on top of that. And that, guys, is a peach muddler. To finish it, you can obviously come in and trim away to suit. Trim the head to taste, as I would like to say. But for me, that's actually looking not too bad, I feel. So, perfect. That's it.
Was that on a size 10 as well, Alan?
Size 10. I've done on size 10s just to make it easier for you guys to see, but I'll tie these down to a 14 or a 16, but that's pretty much it. And as I said before, because it's so fluorescent, you hit this, you can see you're getting a good flash off the body of the fly. Yeah, but the body only, obviously. The legs and the deer here and the hack will mute that down a little bit. So a nice fly for loads of different scenarios. If I'm doing muddlers and hedgehogs that I'm pulling, I tend to use the G3A Sprot hook. It's a bit heavier on the wire. This is an L5A I'm showing here just because that was the first packet of hooks I took out for the demo tonight. But G3A, just because they've got a bit more strength in them if you're pulling in, particularly in bigger sizes, yeah. Or if you really want a hook that's totally Titanic, then the G3AL Wet Supreme also. Remembering the heavier wire on the hook, though, if you're fishing these flies on the surface, then you need lots of deer here for that and fly to be able to be buoyant enough to sustain the weight of the hook. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so a simple muddler. Hope you guys are okay with that. So, any questions about that one? I'm just going to almost exactly the same fly here.
Adam, can I ask one question up there?
Of course
if you were fishing the lochs, would you use a 10 or 12?
No, I'll go match the hatch if they're locked onto something or you're seeing something there. I'll explain that better relating the sizes. I'll come on because I'm going to do a cow dung hopper just in a little while. If you're just going out there and searching, and particularly in a bigger wave, then a 10 is 10 or 12 would be the first ones I lift out. Sometimes it'll be an 8, just depending where you're going and how much disturbance you want to make on the surface of the water. But as a rule of thumb, unless I'm targeting rising fish and I'm aiming for a particular like a size 14 sedge, etc., or something like that, then I tend to go 10. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I've picked it up for years. I'm fishing these lochs, and your first thing is like a size 12 Kate McLaren first fly on your hook when you're cast, and it was locals and guys that fish, in particular up in Orkney and Shetland, over in the Western Isles, and these guys were looking at me going, "No, the flies are too small," and they're pulling out 10s and 8s, yeah. And if you're in the boat with these guys, it's amazing how much more draw fish that you can often take when you're fishing these these bigger, bulkier flies. That said, though, you've also got to be aware that quite often you'll draw a lot of fish, but your hook rate might not be that high because the fish are just coming and turning away. So just be aware if that's happening a lot, then drop the fly, the size of your fly, rather than change to a different pattern. Okay. Right, so where did I put that dubbing? I need assistant, I need a helper. So here we go, this time, just sticking an Orkney theme. So the Peach Muddler, it's been around for a long time, the Peach Muddler. But what we can't do then, if we talk about a Peach Muddler without going to the Tutti Fruity, okay? And it's exactly the same fly, just about. The only difference being that this time it's glow bright numbers 2, 11, 5 and 6. If you remember Tutti Fruity Sweeties, the Tutti Fruity Sweeties, I'll say it in an English accent. If you remember the Tutti Fruity Sweeties that you used to get in the packets, there would be that sort of colours. Yeah, so a range of different colours. Soft pastel ones like. And this is where the Tutti Fruity dubbing came from. But guys, really, it's just a blend of glow bright floss through the mixer again. Caught the thread in here, yeah. This time, I like to be a little bit creative, so I'm going to use a two-tone tail. Still keeping with the colours that some of the colours that are through the body of the fly, and this time I'm going to use glow bright floss number 11. You see there that I've drawn off about 5 inches. And the same again, put in glow bright floss 2, which is pink. Take the two ends of these sections, fold them together like that, and then we just fold them exactly the same technique. Keep the tips lined up each time you fold them, just so you get an even turn. You're folding in the centre all the time then. And then that way, guys, that's us got a decent bunch for a tail. I could fold that again, probably, but remember you've got 2 strands in there this time, so it can get too bulky too quick. Yeah. So because I've got this long ends here, what I'll do is I'm just going to cut that out of the way before I tie it in, to make it just that little bit neater for tying in. Okay. So just compress it down, come in, lock in place, make sure you've got it on top of the hook, run your thread, touch and turns, all the way back down. It's exactly the same. Just down past the point of the hook, about to where the barb would be if you're barbless, you just have to guess that, obviously. But say roughly maybe 2 or 3 millimeters back in from the point of the hook. Yeah. Support it and trim it, and there you can see we've got a nice mixed two-tone tail. Okay. The same wire for the rib. I'm tying with, I've just bought myself a set of 4.5 magnified ready readers, yeah, for tying. And it's, as opposed to the, if anybody's seen me before, I use clip-ons into my glasses. That's great, but the clip-ons, even so light, they tend to draw your glasses forward a bit, and it gets a little bit annoying after a while. So I thought, I'll go and buy these ready readers and see if it's, and they're actually brilliant. They're working great, except when I try to look for stuff on the table now, I can't see a bloody thing. Everything's blurred. So here we go. As I said, we just come in with your pre-mixed dubbing, your pre-blended dubbing. Same again. Remember, it's glow bright floss, so you're going to be really tightly squeezing that on to get the a tight dubbing rope there.
Do you make that dubbing yourself, Alan?
No, actually, to be fair, no, I bought it when I was in Orkney, but Like I say, I've got that would last me a long time. That so yeah, I'm okay for that. But that's why I was explaining to you how to mix up yourself, because the tackle shop Sinclair's that was in Orkney where you could get that. He's in the process of closing the shop down. So,
oh, what a shame.
But I could be wrong here, but I think that you'll find that if you look about, you'll find somebody's actually doing this. Yeah, one of the other. I'm not sure which company, but I'm pretty sure you can buy this pre-made, ready-made, yeah, in these colours. So I'll just wind that on, touch and turns, rough it up your fingers, a bit of Velcro if you want. Just using the same hackle, so it's a light olive. Light ginger hackle is really good for this as well. But all you're doing, guys, is pretty much picking out fairly close to the colours that you've got in the body. Yeah, it's a fancy fly, this one, and it's designed purely to catch trout's attention when you're particularly in either really dirty or really bright days. Yeah. So just lock that in place, clean the stem, take our hackle, press it so it's sitting square, couple of turns in at the back of the where the head will be, and then open turns, palming in open turns back down the fly, 4 or 5 turns. Just make sure I've caught the tail a wee bit, so I'm just wiggling the wire just to get that, so I'm not dragging the tail fibres round. And then in open turns back up with the rib, keeping it as even as you like. If there's any real particular anal particular fly tires in here, then I apologise for my ribs not being exactly the same. But if it's bothering me, it doesn't bother me. And then I'm just going to support the thread, break off the wire, come in with scissors, push them across, pull out the way, draw that back. 2 or 3 turns just in there, just to lock off the palmered fibres, hackle fibres out the way, just draw that back. Legs, and again, I can rattle through this a wee bit because we've already seen this. It's, as I said, it's exactly the same technique. All I've predominantly done is change the tail and the dubbing body colour. Yeah. Spread the legs about, lock them in place, nip that out the way. That's my son going to be at the house if you heard anybody in the background. And I've just laid a bit of thread just to set the deer hair on. And with this one, what I'll do is I'll jump back onto the actual deer hair. But again, guys, whatever colour takes your fancy, yeah, experiment, play about, and you'll find that whatever works really well for you in a fishing sense. That's it. It's a good bunch. I'll show you here. So when I said about what this the last time about less than half an inch, then you're certainly about 3/4 an inch this time. Okay. Don't be shy with the deer here. Set the tips. There we go. You can make them a bit more even than that. Scruffy fly, scruffy head. There we go. I'm just going to set the length of the tip ends of the deer hair just to the lengths of the hackle. Okay? Just beyond the length of the hackle. Same as you would do if you're tying it in as a head hackle. Just let it spin as you wind on. Just try and make sure you get the thread turns on top of each other. Yeah, now I think it didn't spin. Yeah, I've got a wee ball patch there, if you can see. We can hide that in a wee minute though, because all I'll do with this, just exactly the same technique. Come in, don't cut the thread for Alan. Come in, cut the tag edge slightly longer than we're going to be able to trim it off as we finish, if that makes sense. And now this time I've just taken a small bunch of deer here, as you can see here, yeah. And what I'm going to do, if you just turn it around, place that right on top so you get your tips to exactly where you want them, line the tips up with the ones that's already on there. Grip it really, really tight, and then just put 2 or 3 locking turns in. Don't let it spin exactly the same way as you would do if you were doing a hedgehog head wing, yeah. And then with this again, just do the very same. Just draw these tag ends out. So I've just filled that bald spot. Now, if only it was so easy for all these guys who losing their hair and maybe feel a wee bit sad about it. Yeah, we could have just tied a bit on like that. Again, compress, come in below, pull the tag ends out the way so you're not trapping them down. Form your head. And I like to grip the collar of the fly, the hook of behind the eye, sorry, and just compress it with my finger and my thumbnail, and that just tightens the thread up against itself. Okay. Just lock that in place. Varnishing the thread. Everything's the same as we've done already. Varnishing the thread. I think I've got the head a wee bit there. No harm done. Varnishing the thread. Pull that tag ends out the way. Varnish your hook finish you've already done. Just tighten that thread again. And then on the wet varnish, put your next whip finish in. Draw tight, come across with your scissors, push across. And this one, for me actually guys, I think I've just nailed that perfect. I'm not going to bother trimming much of that deer hair off at all. At the head, that looks okay to me. And that there, as I said, you kind of have an ordinary peach without an ordinary tutti fruity, okay? And you see there, same again, same idea. It's the body and the tail that burst in the colour. And there you are. So we've done a Wickham's Hedgehog and 2 different little muddlers for wild loch trout. Hope you guys like that. Happy to take any questions now, guys, if you've got any. Yeah. So a wee bit of thread there, a wee bit of deer hair there. That's it. That's better. Looking in the camera, his camera's looking through the camera, picks up little bits. There's a wee step there, yeah. Turn that out there. That's better. All right, guys. Now I'm going to have a wee refreshment here now, just to calm my nerves down. It's awfully nervous time in front of you guys, you know. Ready to take any questions before we go into the next deadly loch fly. So, who wants to go first to the questions? I'm sure there must be ones there. Yeah. No, Tim Wood's awfully quiet. He's usually got plenty to say for himself.
Hi there, Alan.
Hi there.
Pete Smith. I was just interested what thread you're using.
So it's you can't see it in that spool. So it's Ato classic wax from Centerfly. Yeah, we'll see. Here's one that's out. So there we are. Okay.
Lovely, thank you.
The reason I like that, I'm not going to go into the. I'm with Centerfly, obviously, but the reason I really like this classic wax thread is it's definitely stronger than uni. So you get a better bite. So it makes tying with deer hair that much easier. Yeah. Yeah, you'll break the thread and you'll get thread breaks. It's same as before, but you didn't get anything like half as many as you would get when you're using uni, I feel. Okay. But as I said, other thread types are available, so but that's the ones I like. All right. Anybody else?
Thanks.
No, not a problem. Okay, right. Well, what we're going to do, just change tack a little bit. Actually, no. Before we go any further, I'm going to do another. I'll jump back to the hedgehogs again. I'm just going to show you, because I'm conscious that I only showed you the one colour, one pattern, if you like. I'm just going to jump back into the hedgehogs again just to show you. I showed you tying it with the microglunt thread for the body, but that doesn't give you the dubbing technique if you're doing it using thread. So what I'm going to do here, guys, again, I'd like to put in a little tag. Just to mix it up a little bit. Normally for this particular fly, it would be a chartreuse tag, but I'm just going to mix it up a wee bit here, just to show. It's good to have a range of different colours in your favourite flies, and the tags or the hotspots or the triggers, if you want to call it that. Just helps with different lighting conditions, and sometimes, like everybody knows, sometimes a fly will stand out. If we knew the reasons for that, guys, we wouldn't go fishing, because you would know the secret of meaning of life, I would imagine. So I've laid in our butt, our tag, again using the thread, simply because it's stronger. You could, if you like, put a little wee spot of varnish on. When I'm using the microglunt, I make sure that the varnish catches that edge there, just to give it that little bit extra protection. Yes, I could use the glow bright and wind that round to form the tag, but as you can see, glow bright's a very soft material, so as soon as you start to fish with that there, it starts to fray, and then your tag becomes a tail. Whether that makes a big difference or what, I don't know. Yeah, so that again, it's personal choice. So, and then just so you're wondering, that is the same. It's the thread's Ito, in fluorescent red that time for the tag. So I've got my tag in. I mean, I could have actually just continued with that thread, but then you would get little bits of UV showing through its system. That's something else you could do if you want. Yeah, but I've switched to black here because I just like this colour combination. So what I'm going to do now, just change to a different colour gear here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm using, this is a hairline. This will be white-tailed buck, actually. Now, yes, as I said, roe hair was the best. That I feel much easiest. It's not the only deer hair you can use for hedgehogs, though. So as you see here, this is short fine deer hair or white-tailed buck, comparadon deer hair. Yeah, it's all the same. You can see that the fibres are a good bit finer, thinner, and certainly shorter than roe hair. You see that all right? Yeah. So you've just to be aware of that. You'll not get the same flare when you come to tie this in. Yeah. So as I said, I much prefer to use roe, but you can. Don't panic, it's not the only one you can use. And as I said, because these are, it's a shorter, it's a more even tip, if you like. You can see from here that you're actually getting a straighter, more compact deer hair, straight off the skin. So stacking it is purely optional. Yeah. Now, immediately when I'm tying with this here, I can feel that thread is the hair's a lot denser. And you see, look, you see there that hold on, bear with me. I've just caught the thread and the tip of the hook. There we go, caught it back in again. So normally I wouldn't have as many turns as them, but you can see there that still wanting to draw around the hook. Still got a nice clean edge, but I don't get anything like that same compression at the front. So if you're tying that using a microglunt, then the thread's too soft and too bulky. I wouldn't get anything like as much a grip on that as I've got with this one. What I do though, when working with this stuff, dropping some varnish. And then when that sets, that's obviously going to help secure that wing. Make sure it stays where it's supposed to do. Same technique this time, just lift them up, come on with your scissors, cut away underneath. Just nip it out the way, like so. This bit is very crucial. Let's make sure. Still got a little rope varnish on that thread there. Yeah, and I've caught that out of the way. Now, what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to leave my thread at the base of the wing this time, at that step section, and I'm going to come in with the body here, which in this case is a grey squirrel. So finally found a use for grey squirrels. Yeah. So it's a lovely, lovely natural grey. As you can see there, spiky guards through it. There's a lot of colour variation in that dubbing. Because it's a soft natural material, it'll just jump straight on the thread. There's not a lot of dubbing required. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to dub up. So I'm just going to wind on here like so. Then take my thread back through just to help secure that. Draw it back with your fingers, and then again we're just going to speed through a little bit. This is back into the same steps as before. So you're taking the bunch for your wing. Remember, it's a denser thread, so you don't need it to be as big, if you like. Your 45, set that in place there. Hold it. You really, as I said before, really want to feel the hook through that. And you can see it's, as I said, it's not compressing anything like the same as it did when it was row here. Yeah. Come back, that's out the way. Now that's moved. Actually, you see that? I'm just going to set that back again. Varnish. Make sure I've cut all of that down. Don't worry if you've got a few bare ends sticking out. I'm just not quite happy with that. I'm going to push that back a little bit because I've not got the same. It's drawn forward a little bit, so I've lost that 45. That's better. Get my squirrel. Throw my dubbing rope. Same again. Lock it in place. Remember that? Twist it, the wing towards you just to help counteract thread drag. Got a better flare that time though, for whatever reason. Again, you've not got anything like as tight as you've got when you're tying in the row here, so you need to make sure you've cut these ends. Yeah. Tidy up if there's any longer tags still showing through. Push all that back. Again, a little bit to spiral. Oh shit, sorry. Okay, is that still in focus? Yeah.
Yeah, still in focus.
Good, thank you. Dub that on, but before I do wind that dubbing on, I'm just going to take some pre-knotted pheasant tail eggs. You can knot these yourself. I've got no chance have I got the patience to sit and do that though. I'm just going to spread them around the fly, shorten my thread, and then just lock them in place. As I'm using the dubbing. The reason I'm doing it like that there is just because, as you can see here, I've put so many turns in this that you can quickly build up bulk on this fly. If you put in too many thread turns, yeah. There's a bit extra in there. I'm just going to take that out of the way. Just going to make sure that that's drawn in tight. And because, now I could finish that off, but because there's so many thread turns in there, it's just a personal thing. I don't like when the head's just quite as big as that, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish this one off, and I like, with this particular fly, to use silver holographic ice dub. So just silver holographic dubbing. That's hard to say. Silver holographic dubbing. And just take a pinch of that off. Dub it on. You have to be too tight with it. Now just when I'm putting it on there, if there's any bald bits or that, I draw it back as I go. Fingernail, thumbnail, compress the thread, one whip. Yeah, I'll just finish this conventionally this time because I'm showing enough of the thread there to be able to come in with the varnish after. So I always whip finish twice. Just a belt and braces, just a habit I have. Take my scissors across the thread, nip out the way, and then old-fashioned style, a little bit of varnish into the dubbing needle, just drop it on top, make sure I've got the entire head coated. Yeah, there we go. Take an old hackle that I keep lying about, just to make sure that the eye is clear. And then the Velcro. You don't have to. As you fish this fly, the dubbing head's going to become more straggly the more you use it. But I just like to get it that scruffy way right from the off. Yeah. When I was in Orkney one time, there's a guy up there called Norman Irvin. And anybody ever goes up there or ever fished competitions with these guys, I've been involved, you'll have met Norman. And I remember saying to Norman, we were fishing away in the boat together, and he said that scruffy flies are the best. I said, I totally agree with that. And he says, the ones that look as though they've been chewed by a few fish, or the ones that have been chewed by a few fish is better. He says, but I've got an advantage because mine are that rough when they come off the vise. Yeah. So I have to tend to agree with him. I feel mine are the same way. So just that real scruffy, fishable style fly. Just the style of patterns that I'm particularly drawn to. And there you go, guys. That's it. Yeah. So that's just the grey and silver hedgehog, I call it. And just to show you the different technique when you're using a dubbing in the body as opposed to just using the thread as the body. Okay. There we go. Right, next. Everybody okay with that? Next, what we're going to do, we're going to move over onto hoppers. And so for this one, I'm switched to Caddis Emerger hook. So it's a K14A. So as you can see, it's got an elongated, it's a curved hook, but it's an elongated curve and a straight eye. All right, you see that okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a cow dung fly. Now, cow dung flies, well, undoubtedly back in the day there would have been a lot more of them on the go than you see now, but you still see lots of cow dung flies on the water. Everybody associates it as a summer pattern. A couple of things about cow dungs. Yes, when it's warmer, like all dipter type flies, they need the heat to get their blood flowing so that they can get their wings working, etc. But you'll get them. It's a terrestrial fly, same as you'll get blue bottles in the house. It's the same family. You'll get them on the water all season, actually. So it's the only terrestrial pattern that you tend to get, irrespective of which part of the country you're in. It's the only terrestrial pattern you'll see on the water, or you can see in the water from the opening day to closing day. Yeah. Albeit, obviously, in the summertime, when it's warmer, then it's going to be more common. Only thing to remember with that is, guys, is that yeah, you'll need animals. So it's animal waste they're feeding on. They don't tend to migrate very far. There's a common fallacy though, because a lot of people think that, or the perceived way of thinking is that cow dungs are blown onto the water. They're not. Actually, what happens is it's a predatory fly. So cow dungs will go into animal waste, cow pats, sheep, horses, good examples. As long as the farmer's not feeding them and feed full of pesticides, that way that kills the insects off. So for more organic style farmers, then you'll still get plenty of cow diet dungs on the go. You can have these animals downwind of you and still have cow dungs in the water. The lay their eggs in the animal waste. The larvae hatch out, burrow through and feed on the larvae of the other flies that are feeding in the animal waste. And the females, which is a smaller, browner fly, they tend to stay in the animal waste and they'll feed on the adults of the flies that are laying their eggs to feed on the waste, as opposed to actually feeding on the waste itself. The males, was that, now the only way to pronounce it, to accurately describe it, is that shitty yellow colour that you get. The males, they actively go out and they feed on water fleas, essentially. So they seek out water and they'll fly onto the water. Hence the reason why you can have the animals downwind of you, and cow dungs will still be around you. Yeah. Just what you want is, as I said, ideal conditions. Really warm, loads of cow dungs out, and the fish switched on and locked on to feeding on them. So, but as I said, there's a good chance they'll be there if there's any animals about. So it's always, if you're fishing, particularly if you're fishing a team of flies, it's always worthwhile thinking about having one on your cast, certainly handy, ready to put on. Keep looking out for it, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put in my target trigger point hotspot, just the same way by putting some fluorescent thread onto the hook, and this time I'm just going to come around the bend. You would see there, that would be 2 or 3 millimeters back from the point of the hook for a stop, and then touch and turns again, just come all the way back up, and then lock that in place. All right, that's me formed my tag end on the fly. Cut the thread out of the way. Now, yellow thread, if you have it, light olive if you don't. I'm going to use light olive here because I don't know what I've done with the yellow thread in the bobbin holder. I must have packed it away. I started getting stuff ready for going across to Ireland, and I've got a wee travel bag and started throwing things in it. I think that's where it is. So, thread's come out the spool. I'm just going to draw that through. Come in just behind the eye, lay down, bed of thread, catch on your tag end, all the way down to, you want to leave however much of the hot spot you want to leave. Cut the waist out the way, and then just a couple of turns there, and you'll see just past the tip of the hook, that's me got that set. And then I'm just going to take the thread back up, keeping it flat. And then we're going to just come straight in with the dubbing, which is it's a pre-mixed dub I make. I use yellow, bit orange, bit olive, wee touch of brown, wee touch of black, and then a bit of sparkle. So olive glister or Spectra, stuff like that. Anything just to give, as you can see there, see that wee bit of glister showing through that. Now I hand mix it. I didn't use the coffee mixer. My coffee mixer's for coffee guy. Yeah. So you can see there it's quite a rough, uneven mix, and you get that nice, as I said before, best way to describe it is that nice shitty yellow colour. Yeah. Just pull a little pinch of that off. This is quite a squat fly, same as a blue bottle, so you don't have to be too fine with your dubbing rope. So it's not like you put more on than less, guys, because you can always brush that out. Yeah. Now we've got quite a fat, stocky, stumpy dubbing rope. Shorten the thread, and then we're just going to wind that down and touch and turns, leaving the tag exposed, and then I shall just take my thread back through. So I've wound down and then ribbed up. Okay. I like to keep it really scruffy, so before I do anything else, you can come at the end with your Velcro, but it's easier to do it when there's no other materials in the way. Yeah. Just scruff that up. Okay. Straight in with my upper legs. Natural, the natural coloured pheasant tail's good. I'm lucky enough though, I picked up some picric dyed pheasant tail legs. I got these from Essential Fly. I don't know if they're still doing them, but yellow dyed ones or even olive dyed can be quite effective. Yeah. Ultimately, does it make a difference when you're fishing it? No, not at all. It's just purely for the aesthetics that I like myself. So I'm just going to set this in. When you're tying pheasant tail legs, and I'm sure I've said this earlier, remember this is not a river fly. You don't have to keep your proportions right. Yes, a loch fly, it's a trigger point. Okay, so don't be shy to leave them a bit longer. And I do that with all my hoppers, leave the legs, you could say exaggeratedly long. Yeah, exaggerated. Is that a real one? So purposefully long, and that way it just acts as that extra trigger. So you're matching the hatch, but we're working on general impressionistic size and shape principles here, guys. Okay. So basically what I've done is I've spread those legs around the hook slightly, pretty much on top, but you'll see that you see that you're getting a spread round, a splay if you like. Yeah, so that they're visible from underneath. Clean that out of the way, and then we're going to come into the wing. Again, I'm lucky enough to have picric dyed deer here. Yellow deer here is really good, guys. If you're on off the shelf, if you want an off the shelf purchase, then yellow deer here is really good for that. Olives and black either. Natural's good as well, but it just comes in your personal choice. So what I'm doing then is I'm just going to set a wing. You can see it's a much smaller. This is not a hedgehog. It's just a hopper wing. So it's a much smaller bunch, compressed down. You still line the tips up, remember. And then what I'll do is I've set the length, and I want the length of the wing to come to about just slightly short of where my my tag is. Okay. Grip it dead tight. I want that to sit up on top of the fly as a wing. I've twisted it towards myself slightly just to counteract any thread drag. Draw my fingers out and any broken fibres come away, and I've left with a nice clean wing. Pull back the tag ends, nip away at the tag ends, and that way you make sure you're getting them out of the way. Quite often you actually, because you're holding the tag ends really tight as you come in with your scissors, the scissors are cutting the tag ends without you actually having to snip, which is great because the amount of times that you cut the thread doing that's amazing. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to tighten the thread up a wee bit here, yeah, and just 2 or 3 locking turns in there. Just being aware that I've tightened the thread, so be careful you don't break it. Now there's a couple of ways you can finish this. Actually, what I could do is drop another little drop dubbin in here and put another wee bunch of wing in and leave the tag ends a half muddler head finish at the front if you want it like a half hog. Or, as I like to do, I use a furnace cock hackle. And I'm just going to put a wee hackle in at the head of the fly here. So, furnace cock, yeah. It's amazing how you think you buy a full cape and it's going to last you for a long time. And I don't know, it's just maybe the next thing you pick up, there's flipping hardly in it. Like. Your favourite capes go quick, guys. So, furnace cock, we set the hackle lengths just about the same length as the wing fibres, okay? I like that dark band down the centre. When you look at the natural fly, it's quite dark centre to it, so that helps to accurately imitate in that respect. But again, I mean, we're talking general impressionistic stuff here, so you don't have to worry about that too much. This time, just tighten my thread up again a little bit, just to make sure the thread is nice and tight and clean. I've locked that in place. I come in behind the eye. Pull that thread out the way, cut that hackle stem. Bring my hackle forward, press it. And then I'm just going to take about 3 or 4 turns, just in front of each one, like so. Again, keep that tight, just to keep the space in my thread using up down to a minimum. Yep. Now before I cut the hackle at the bait, what I'm going to do, shorten the thread, draw everything back, and then just, oops, draw everything back, sorry guys, and then just catch right at the base of that there. Lock it in place. Finger and thumbnail, crush that in, compress the thread, get all your fibres out the road, come in and drop in a whip finish. Just 2 turns locking. Let's just set the wing. What's a bit infuriating, I have to say, is that I could have done with tightening that bloody vice up a bit. Yeah. Hook's moving. Come on, my scissors. Don't snip because you know about cutting the fibres at the bait. Just come across your scissors, across the hackle, and I'll cut out the way. And then I could finish it off another whip finish and then come in with varnish after, or do what I like to do often, which is just put the varnish on the thread. Wind it on. Now I've caught the bottom of that hackle there, but don't worry because you're going to be cutting that off. So I've varnished the whip finish I've already done, and then I'm just going to put in another lock and turn there, just to secure the fly, and then that is it varnishing the head as I'm doing it. Now this time, just before I finish the fly off, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gather all the fibres from underneath the fly along with the thread. We can come in with scissors, tight to the body, not too tight. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're leaving 2 or 3 millimeters sticking down, yeah, because they just get lost. Those hackle tips, cut tips, just get lost within the dressing of the fly. And then what I've done is I've cut the underside of that there. And the reason for that being is, if I can do this without losing focus, is when I turn the fly to the front, if you can see that, it's not really showing very well. Get against the background. Better? Yeah, you can see you've got that half almost comparadon round. So when you fish, you put floating in this entire fly. So when you cast that in, it's going to lie really low in the water. Yeah, it's going to sit in the water predominantly, pretty much. If that's the water surface, it's going to sit right like that. Yeah, and it just gives that nice, vulnerable, easy meal appeal to the trout that they find so, or can find so irresistible. And that's it. I tend to fish 2 of them. Any stubborn fibres like that one there, see, just out the road. Goodbye. I tend to fish 2 of these, again, full width miles apart, and I'll keep this static. A tip when you're using, if you're fishing much in the hatch dry with cow dungs, sedge as well, actually, for that matter. I tend to find that if you're targeting these fish, if you're fishing static, you're keeping that fly dead still, then I feel you get a much better success rate. In fact, I often say that if you're fishing the fly static, you're still moving it too far. So pitch it in front of these moving fish and just do not move it. Yeah, right. Keep up your line with the swing and the natural swing of the surface of the water, but in the wind. But I tend not to, and in first instance anyway, I tend not to draw the fly away at all. Just leave it sitting there for about up to about a minute, and I'll cast it in again. Yeah. Okay, guys. So that's a little cow dung hopper. You all right with that? You'll get a couple of questions. Anybody asking anything? Derek, you got anything?
Yeah, Alan, lovely fly that. Can I ask, do you use the same type of fly but in different colours if you're imitating the Hawthorn?
Yes, I was going to do a heather fly next, which is very similar, but yeah, the change the colorations of the fly to suit the particular time of year or the particular pattern that you're aiming to represent. Yeah, even with the speculative cast, the fishing. Yeah, I mean, black and red, you can't really go wrong with that. But yeah, hawthorns, etc. The other thing is what I tend to do. I would fish that fly if there's cow dungs on a river. Interesting enough, it's probably just me. I tend to it's exactly the same fly, but don't put the wing on it. Yeah, so you just get that something a little bit more sparse. I feel I have a better success than fishing a squat, bulky fly on the rivers. Now, there's no any real rhyme or reason to that, guys. It's just purely a confidence thing for myself. That's all. Okay. So that helped. That good answer. So
yes, thank you, Alan. That was great.
Oh, not at all, not at all. So I guess I can have some more of this Glen Murray just now, guys. I've been speaking an awful lot here. My throat's really dry. Any excuse. Terrible stuff. Don't do it at all. So we'll stick with the same hook. The hoppers, I like the vulnerable effect and the vulnerable shape you get from using curved hooks. Yeah. That said, I tie them in straight hooks as well. Yeah. Just the same principle. Just trim the underside, so keep the bottom of the fly clear, so the fly will sit low in the surface of the water. So this one, for a hawthorn imitation, I don't put a tag in it. I don't put the fluorescent hotspot, if you like, just because it's not really something that you see. In fact, I'll tell you what, actually, because it's such an easy, quick fly to tie, I'll just do one. Yeah. So with this one, I'll just come in black thread. Yeah. Make sure I've got this hook tightened up properly this time. So just come in with black thread, lay it down, clean away the tag end. Come to a little way around the bend of the hook, yeah. And then I'm going to wind it all the way back up. So I'm just laying a bit of thread on there to take my dub body, yeah. So for the dub body, in this particular fly, I like to use black rabbit, okay. The good thing about using rabbit is you get a lovely, it's really soft, but you'll still get spiky bits of hairs coming through. So you get a lovely, rough, soft but rough body to the fly. So what I've done is I form a dubbing rope, see, in the black and the rabbit. And that dubbing rope is just over an inch long. But also, I like to put a little bit of sparkle. Now, I don't have, as I said already, I've not got that hotspot, the fluorescent hotspot in there. And this is a good pattern to show because I don't have, obviously, fluorescent hotspots in other fly. It's just as the mood takes you. And I tend to find at the start of the season that it can be detrimental. So my hawthorns don't have that. Now what I've done is I've just taken a little bit of flash, but in this case is a light olive spectrum. You see that? Yeah. Very, very fine dubbing. Glisters. Glister was the one I used to begin with. I think the spectra just that little bit finer, but olive glister is equally as good, guys. I've not put too much on there. as you saw there, it was just a few strands, and I've dubbed it over the top. Now I used to break it up and then mix it through, so the glister was through the dubbing, yeah. Whereas now I find it easier if you just drop a few strands on top, and then you can control how much or how little you actually want on your dub. Touch and turns. I'm just going to bring this all the way down. And I've just caught just enough. If I needed to, if it was a bit shorter, I would have just put a tiny wee spot of dubbing back on. Just roughen that up with your fingers, and then in open turns, with your thread, just come back up. So I've rubbed down. I've dubbed down, sorry, and then run back up again. So a couple of ways you can do this. You can, obviously, I'm going to put legs in. You can pick your two legs on one either side if you really want to be matching hatches, or you can do as I often do, is just put in a bunch so that you've got that hopper effect, but you've exaggerated the trigger point, if you like, yeah, in the legs. You can put in a deer hair, wee bunch of deer hair wing. Yeah, great. Maybe not just quite a Hawthorn profile, that though. Another option you can put in is if you use a little bit of poly yarn in the wing. But to be fair, honestly, I just tend to use a black hackle and emit the wing. So I've just really got my hopper legs and the hackle itself. Yeah. For a Hawthorn, anyway. Yeah. This one here, I'm going to stick to the black legs. As I said already, I'm tying this. If you want to take it as a rule of thumb, say a loch hopper or a lake hopper or a stillwater hopper is going to have loads of legs, and a river one doesn't. Yeah, it's just the way I tie them, guys. Ultimately, whether it makes much of a difference or not, I don't know. But as I said already, it's really a confidence thing for me. Set the legs on. Set them on top of the hook. Hawthorn's legs are obviously underneath, so with this one, I'm going to make sure that I've pressed the legs down, and then I'm going to grip them tight to the sides and lock them in place, and in that way we're seeing the legs and we're trailing below. Yeah, keeping them with that general impressionistic size and shape. It's what the trout, roughly the profile on the water that the trout is going to identify. Okay, not them all. I've not got them all underneath, as you see. I've just made sure that the a good spread with the legs. That's a terrible thing to say. What I'm going to do now, just come straight from a black hackle. Again, black cock hackle. Actually, I did look out this one today. Oh, there it is, it's on the floor. Half saddle I've got here. Yeah. Just try to pick up a hackle stem out to the right size. And I'm wanting, forget about this underfluff. I want the hackle fibres to match the size of the hook. So in this particular size 12, so this particular fly, I want the fibres to be sitting about, say, 5-6 millimeters off the bend of the wire. Yeah. I'm going to come up the hackle a good bit so that I'll have the stem's not so thick. Catch that hackle in place. I've come up just shy of the back of the eye of the hook. Clean the waste stem out of the way. Same thing again. Take my hackle, fold it so it's sitting square, and then I'm just going to put 4 or 5 turns, each one in front of the one before, drawing back as you go. Lock that in place. Scissors across the hackle, pull everything back. tighten the thread just to keep the head small. Form the head. Finger and thumbnail. Compress the head. Bit finish. Double bit finish. It's a dry fly. What you're doing is you're going to trim that hackle underneath. You don't have to do that. The reason I like to do that is, see if you leave the hackles, you know what a grunter is, yeah? So you leave the hackles underneath there, the fly's going to sit, or quite often I feel it sits like that, point down, yeah? So your hackles lying flat, almost like a parachute thing. Now, I've got a theory. I think that Stuart spiders, when they were tied as dry flies way back in the day, with full hackles, fished like that, yeah? And then in modern day, you're saying flies like the grunter that are designed to sit with the hook point straight down, and the hook shank sit straight down. And I tend to think that almost a pre-runner to a parachute hackle, if you like, would have been a full hackle on a straight hook with no tail, and it's going to the wire's going to cut through and sit like that, yeah. So your hackle's sitting flat across the surface like a parachute. So to counteract that, I want this thing to sit flat, so I'm going to trim the hackle underneath. What I've got to remember though is I've got legs in there, yeah. So what I do is I tend to come in from behind and pull the legs up out the way, and then come in. This is going to clatter because I'm popping holder's going to fall on the table. And then come across with my scissors, press those legs down so you're not cutting them, and then just tidy up, come across. You don't have to take all the hackles out. You've just taken the bulk of the hackle out of there. And that
Hello.
way, yeah.
Can I ask? You're not got anything there to imitate the wing. And we use generally. I always thought that you'd have the wing was one of the things which attracted them. Do you not think so?
Sorry, on you go. Yeah. So I tend to miss the wing out just because I'm tying these flies up simple and quick. If I was going to put a wing into that one, as I said earlier, deer hair I find it's a little bit too bulky for that style of fly, so I would tend to use a polyarm, yeah, if I put a wing in at all.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but I'm keeping it a sparse, almost spider-like appearance, if you like. So
yeah,
really,
no, it was just a sort of if you're getting luck on that, I was just sort of without the trigger, which I thought it needed. That's why I was questioning it.
It's just for pure laziness. Actually, I've just in quickness. I've just omitted the wing. As you can see there, you can see the legs trailing down, so they're going to sit subsurface, but the hackle's sitting almost 3/4 round. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem at all. If you wanted to be really clever with that particular fly, guys, then instead of tying your hackles in like that, then just try it Comparadun style. I'm pretty sure we had Comparadun demonstrations a couple of weeks back, didn't we? Yeah. So that's it. Yeah, there's really, as I said, not a lot to it. It's really simple, and that would be a plain black Hawthorn fly. The trigger in this one being, you can see there, the legs, yeah, and a little bit of sparkle in the body, but no fluorescent hotspot, yeah. So moving forward, what I'm going to do, we'll fast forward now, keeping on the same black theme. I'm going to fast forward to later in the season when we get heatherfly, okay. So heatherfly can be very unpredictable, actually. You think that you're going to have a great year for heatherflies and they just don't appear, and in other years you're not really expecting much, and you have a great year with them. So as I'm watching a hatch fly, then it's always worth having it. But to be fair, guys. Black and red, when you're searching out in particular the wild style lochs, then it's a great killing combination colour to have. So you should have black and red flies in there. And I've shown you, as I explained earlier, I was talking about the curved hooks with the half in, half out body, if you like, trailing body. Same as very similar technique to clink hammers and deer hair mergers. But for this one, I'm just going to show you tying almost the same style of fly as we've seen with the other two, the cow dung and the Hawthorn. I'm tying it on a straight hook there just to show that, yeah, equally as good tying them in this style of hook. Okay. This one, I'm just going to put in my little fluorescent red tag. Like all of these flies, though, freestyle, if you want to call it that, you play about with your techniques. You have a rough central theme, and then you play about your dressings and a bit of your techniques to get some things that you particularly like. Yeah? If you did the same thing over and over again, surely it would get a bit boring. So I've probably got maybe 5 or 6 different versions of heather fly, but all much and such the same. So I've got my fluorescent tag in there, my hotspot. Yeah, and now I'm going to just catch in. In this case, I've switched to red thread. Again, purely just for the aesthetics. Black's equally as effective. I'm just going to come down. But with this one here, what I've done, as you can see, I've come down to the tag's just short at the bend of the hook, and the thread is just come in line with the point of the hook. Okay. So I've caught in my tag end, and I've laid a bed of thread down. I've got my thread back up to the behind the eye, and I'm going to come in here, pinch your rabbit fin, and same again, a little pinch of olive spectra. It's golden olive spectra. I can't remember the colours. They come with a code number. I can't actually remember that one for this because I take them out the packets and put them in a little box. But anything resembling that style, dark olive, light olive, golden olive, does the same thing. And the reason I use olive and black is, you think back, remember when pearl lurex hit the scene first, and everybody loved it because if you're tying in black thread, you've got that lovely green sheen showing through. Yeah. Well, that's just the same, except it doesn't matter what your base thread is. If you're tying, if your sparkle is green, then it's obviously going to show through like that anyway. Yeah. When you put the lurex onto red thread or yellow thread, you didn't get that same real deep green shine showing through. Yeah. If you see my drift. So what I've done here is quite a squat body, as you can see, dubbed down, ribbed up, and I'm going to come in with my little bit of Velcro, and I'm really going to rough that up. Whoops. Including the underside. Almost looks like a hackle body, if you like. Yeah. Back's still a little bit thick. Yeah, Velcro, look at it, picks up everything it's lying about. For this particular pattern, because it's a heather fly, red legs, bibio style, then I'm going to use red pre-knotted pheasant tail. Textbooks will tell you to count out 6. Trouts kind of count. I'll just take a bunch. And you can put as much or as little of these things on as you want, really. Okay. Catch the legs in. Lock and turns. tag ends out the way. You can see the legs with the all really, apart from the Hawthorn where I purposely drag them underneath. The legs are sitting on the top an awful lot. The reason being they'll spread about and splay as you're casting it. But the other thing as well, the fly, when you're doing that, everything's pretty much on the top. For the underside, the silhouette looks very sedge-like, or Hawthorn-like. So you could see the best of both worlds, if you like. Than the fact that same with the cow dung. This particular fly works really good for this. Will work for a really small dark sedge. The cow dung works really good for a really small light sedge. The tiny sedges that you see on the waters during the daytime, in the mid to late summer, on a lot of still waters. Yeah. Natural deer here for this one. I'm back to roll. I decided that I'm fed up using that short fine stuff. Not too much. As with natural deer here, a natural roll. Just get the tips to line up. What's a good wee tip here? You can see there's some broken fibres and that still stuck into the last time I used this. And it happens a lot with roe here actually. Just make sure you clean that out. Otherwise it can get mixed in, as you can see here. You can see that. Yeah, gets mixed in with what you're trying to do, and it quite often stops the tips from lining up properly. And as you see, when I'm saying tips, I mean it's the very tips I'm using here. I'm not going to set the wing massive. I'm just going to set it so that it's coming. The tips are going to come a bit in line, or certainly a 45 with the my wee tag end there. Okay. Now I know that's where it is. Lock in place. Lift up. Nip that out the way. Yeah. Make sure I've got that tight. And then we'll come and we'll use the furnace hackle for this one. No, good old, actually, I'll tell you what, for a heather fly out of the furnace hackle, if you want a fly, particularly if you're fishing evening times, and there's heather flies still in the boat, then I tend to work with grizzle, yeah. And the reason for that being is that, yeah, okay, it's not exactly matching the principles and the colours of the fly that you're aiming for. Makes it easier for you to see it through. And I find that grizzle, or a white hackle actually, can work very, very well. I have a pattern called a quarry killer. If you break about my Facebook page, you'll see it, which is predominantly just black and white, yeah, and a bit of red in it. Good buzzer imitation, actually, or emerging buzzer imitation, but as I said, equally as good when heather flyer on the go. And the added bonus is with the white hackle, the contrast in colour makes it really easy to see. So I've just put a couple of looking turns in place there. I'm going to trim the stem out the way, fold, and just first turn, just touching the base of the wing. Probably get 4 turns in here. Got that out of the way. I'm just going to take my scissors across my hackle, nip out the rod, condense the thread, finger and thumbnail, draw them back, tighten the thread up so that it just means the smaller head really. It's no using up as much room as if the thread was flat. And then I've just come straight in. I've pulled all the hackle fibres back out the way, and I'm just going to put in a couple of turns to lock it. There's one stray fibre pulled forward, but it's not really caused much of a problem. If it was going for a competition, I'm pretty sure Paul Little would mark me down. the varnishing thread. So just varnishing the quick finish that I've done, and then because the varnish is still wet, just drop in a couple of locking turns, and that's a belt and braces finish. And then with same as with the rest of them, now you can, if you want a pulling hopper, you're going to be working at subsurface, similar to the style of things that George Barn and that fish. When I do half full hackled hoppers in my box, then you would just leave that. But if you want it as a dry and to be sitting that really vulnerable, flat in the surface, cut the hackle off. Right, I'm just going to cut it out of the way. There we go. Paul would be proud. Okay, and then you can see flat hackle on the underside, sitting round. As I said, furnace hackle if you want. I'm just showing you a contrast, a nice contrast you can get with using white. Even against that pale background there, you can still see that stands out. When you're fishing that in darker light, it's amazing how well the white hackle will stand out. Lets you track it better, as opposed to just try and fall on the tip of your fly line. But also because you've tied the legs up high, anything that's sitting up on the surface there, it still has that silhouette effect, and still looks like a natural insect from the underside to the fish. But anything sitting up like that there and it's getting darker, helps you track it better. And that's it. That's just, as I've showed you there, 3 very similar tying styles, techniques, 3 completely different finishes with the fly. As I said already, I like to play about with these patterns and have various different ones in my box. Or as I'm sitting tying, quite often some of the best flies I've got actually come about with, I've been tying other things, and there's bits and pieces of hackles and legs and bits of dubbing and everything all lying about the tying table, and I'm just going to make flies up for what's lying in front of me. So, yeah, not to say that I don't follow traditional patterns, of course I do, but quite often I just like to play about when I'm tying flies. So there we go, guys. How's that? You like that? It's at 9:15.
Very
Okay.
good, Alan. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you okay? You want another one? Happy to do another one if you want. But no problem. If you think I've been wittering on too long, then won't take offence. If you're happy with that, yeah.
Excellent.
So really, guys, that's just a wee run through loch flies that I've got. I'll tell you what, I'll do one more. And what I'll do is I'll do it as I was talking about before, with heavier gauge wire, and I'll make it as a fly that's going to sit just subsurface, a pooling hopper, if you like. Yeah, just showing how you can take what you would class as a traditional or a kind of traditional style loch fly, a bob fly, and turn it into just give it a couple of extra trigger points. So if you just bear with me a second. Roots out. What I'm going to do, as I said already, if you want a fly that's going to sit right down in the surface, so certainly in this case below the surface, then G3AL Wet Fly Supreme, very heavy wire hook, you'll see that in a second. So this one, using all the same, or a lot of the same tying techniques, just but what I've showed you has been predominantly dries, surface or in the surface style. This is a subsurface pulling fly. If you fish loch style, 3 flies or 4 flies, my predominantly is 3 if I'm doing that short lining, then having a heavyweight fly in the hook helps anchor the cast in the water, so your bob flies will dibble across the top better. But it also acts as that trigger fly, just subsurface. Often the flies, your trout will come in to the flies on the surface and turn away and take the one below, which is exactly what I'm aiming for with this one, which is hence the reason why I tie it on a heavier hook. Yeah. So just stick the principles, black thread, Kate McLaren. The Kate McLaren's a fantastic wild trout fly, catch fish everywhere with it. And one of the most effective variations, if you like, is a green tail Kate. A green tail Kate is not actually green. As you see, this is glow bright number 11, chartreuse. So you'd be going 12, I think, is a glow bright colour for a much deeper green, yeah. So it's almost a yellow tail Kate, but it's always dubbed the green tail Kate. And as I said, the colour of choice was 11 chartreuse. So we're catching the tag in here, the tail, sorry. Just that same technique. I've taken about 5 inches of glow bright floss, folded it over 3 or 4 times, trim it off. So you got a nice square tail, and then I'll just take my thread down to just at the point at the start of the bend of the hook, okay? And just clean off this the tag ends at the opposite side, just so that you don't get a bump. This time I'm going to switch to silver wire. Now again, talking about keeping traditionalist stuff, so that would be a crest tail if I was going to be doing a proper Kate McLaren. As you can see here, as I said, I've talked about the green tail already. The other change, or one of the changes I like to make for Palmer bob flies, is switching from what would have been what do you call it, oval braid, yeah, to wire. Purely because you still get a bit of flash off the wire coming through, but really, when you're tying in a hackle, it's so much easier if you're using a smooth wire as opposed to oval braid. Yeah, traditionalists hate me for saying that, but I'm all about making my fly tying much more simple and easy. So what I've done is I've just locked that thread and that wire in place. It's going to be acting as a rib. I've brought my thread back down the tag end, and I'm going to pick out same dubbing. I like to use rabbit. I use rabbit a lot as a substitute in a lot of these flies, just because it's so easy to dub with. And if you brush it out, you get a nice a scruffy effect. Anyway, what I've done this time, just to show you another way variation you can do, is I've mixed the glister through the rabbit this time. Yeah, just my finger. Good bunch of dubbing. Shorten the thread to push the dubbing rope up. It was a wee bit lumpy at the back, so I've just made sure I've evened it out a bit with my fingers as I come forward. You can see just how scruffy that looks. Take my black hackle. I'll use the rest of that one that I used earlier. Open them up. You prep your fibre, your hackle fibres first. Expose the end. Lock that in place. Get out of the way, and it's going to be a bit short, so I shall grab my hackle pliers. And what I'm going to do, there's no muddler head in this one, so I can come in right up to the back of the eye. I'm going to be putting a head hackle on this one, but I'll put to help support that, I'm going to put a couple of turns in just at the back of the eye there. Now I come down, open turns, Palmer the fly. Ah, shit. Anybody else got these hackle pliers? They seem to be either great or a disaster.
I use the CNF. They're much better hackle players.
I'll certainly, I think I'll bite the bullet and just treat myself, I think.
They're expensive, but they're well worth the money.
Thanks for the tip, because I'll certainly, I'll look that up when I'm across the island next week. Because it is frustrating, I have to admit, when you're doing this. It's not so bad when you're doing it yourself. Nobody else sees it, but when you're doing it in front of other people, then it's a little bit embarrassing. But all I did there was I just essentially took everything right back to the start and started again. So that meant I had no slack hackle turns coming down the body of the fly. Okay. Now I've taken my wire. As I said already, it's far easier to do this without trapping the fibres down. I just have a slight wee wiggle in the wire as I come forward and ribbon this fly. Okay. That's the only reason why I don't use the oval braid for this. Nip out the way, cut that out the way. So really, I've got the basis of, if I put on the furnace hackle or a ginger hackle on the top of that there now is pretty much a Kate McLaren, yeah. What I'm going to do, the second trigger, so the first change obviously is went from crest to the floss tail. I shouldn't point for this side there. So that's my first variation, the first change. Second change is using the wire instead of the braid oval tinsel. Third step, this is a hopper style. I'm going to be tying in some legs, yeah. Use loads of these legs, to be fair, nowadays, and it just adds that extra trigger to these flies. Put that in place there. Okay. And then finally, what I'm going to do is just tie in a head hackle. Yes. And roughly keeping the almost Kate McLaren principles, guys. Keep some of the traditional dressing, I would say. I'm going to come in with ginger head hackle. I'm using the ginger neck. You could use the pheasant or a hen if you wanted that softer finish to the head. Take my stem out the road. Just make sure I've tidied that up. Fold. And then I'm just going to, I'm not going to risk a hackle pliers again. Just going to keep the good side up if it'll sit up. Wind and draw. So without the legs, I would have classed that as a bob fly, but putting the legs in there helps, I would say, certainly quantify it as a hopper, yeah. Nip out of the way. Draw everything back. Compress that thread, draw everything back. And just put a few locking turns in there. Yeah. We'll finish that off, and this obviously this time it's a pulling fly, so all the hackle stays on. I'm not trimming any of this off. We'll finish this off, varnish and finish it, or just put a single locker in first, and then if you want just a tiny little bit added effect, come in with your sparkle dubbing of choice, which I already said I like the gold. I explained to earlier on, people are talking about that Midas finish, then that's what they're talking about. It's a gold sparkle dubbing, nice dubbing, whatever you have. Everything back out the way. Lock out the way. And the good thing about putting the dubbing, you're getting that added trigger point. But the good thing about putting the dubbing is if the head's too big, you can just disguise it by by putting a dubbed head on. Yeah, it's almost like a soft muddler head, if you want to call it that. And then again, I'll just come across my scissors, across the thread, and then you can brush the dub out if you want, or if you want to keep it a tighter hot spot, leave it and just allow it to become more scruffy as you fish it. Varnish the head. And that, guys, is a Kate McLaren principle, but that would be what I would say is a pulling fly, a pulling hopper. Yeah. Let's make sure that's clean. Did you see the mess that come off that hackle? There we go, and that's it. Okay, so nice, good range through different loch flies. For wild trout, obviously work equally as well for their stock cousins if you're a rainbow man. And it's just some of the patterns that I like to fish when I'm out on still water instead of running water. Okay, so there we go, guys.
Very nice.
That's it. Perfect.
Thank you, Alan. Nice, no,
No.
good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Al.